Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good day. I am Elizabeth, Dr. E. Carter. So excited to talk to you today about my topic, 7 Steps to Succeed, the Path to Elevating Your Value. Today, I'll focus on 3 main objectives. First, how to make the connection. Realizing your purpose, your mindset, understanding these 7 steps and how you can leverage them. Number 2, gain clarity and confidence from 7 questions that align to these 7 steps to ensure that you are moving forward into excellence. And last, contribution. You're going to move from being a passive participant to an active contributor. So join me and let's have this conversation. Connection. There was the first day that I walked into a meeting of Toastmasters. Have you had the chance to be part of a great organization where you knew you could learn and grow, but you were afraid? I talk to so many people about development, whether it's communication, leadership, getting out of your own way. But when I think about communication, people always said to me, well, I talk good. Why do I need Toastmasters? Or I'm an expert in IT. I don't need any more IT training. I'm an expert in fill in the blank. And the person will always think that they don't need any more information, no more training. But the world is moving so quickly. Things are evolving. There's new information, new things to learn. You have to stay abreast of what's going on in your area of expertise. But you have to be clear on what you want. We all talk about we want to be successful, but successful means something different to every single person. But we all can start at the same place with purpose. Know the who, what, when, why, how, and how come of what you are working on. That's the first part of the succeed. Now, often we are just doing our thing. We love what we do, not looking for anything else beyond what we do today and where we sit in our lives. And we get the tap. Have you tap? That is when someone comes over to you and taps you on the shoulder. This is one scene from the Santa Claus when the little girl walks up to Santa Claus and he's in his regular clothes and she taps him because she knows he's Santa Claus. And he turns and says, "What?" But what the tap really is what I call thrust and push. Thrust and push. Because there is someone who has tapped you because they trust that you can do a great job. But you need a push, a little nudge, a little acknowledgement, a little affirmation that you could be great at it. But sometimes we're in the right seat at the wrong time. And I love talking about our great coach here. He was coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, and the team did not do well. Andy Reid, and they fired him. Fired him. Those of you who are from that part of the world, I am in the Philadelphia, Delaware, Pennsylvania area. I remember that well. But he went on to work for the Kansas City Chiefs, and they have gone on to win multiple Super Bowl. Same man, same Andy. He didn't change a thing. But sometimes we're just not in the right place at the right time. The second step about succeeding is understanding your value. And more importantly, knowing when Your value where you're sitting has changed, and it's time for a shift. Don't think that it's you doing something wrong. It is just that the environment has changed, the season has changed, and you now need to move on to someplace else because you're still you. What you bring to the table is valuable. It is just that every single group has a different acceptance level, I would say, of you. And I've learned that quite often. I've moved a lot of times for different corporate jobs, and every group received me differently. I hadn't changed. I may have grown over time, but my same core values were the same. So understand your value. I received the tap again for a higher level of leadership. And have you had that thought when someone talks to you about an opportunity and you're like, oh, I don't have it. I don't think I have the right skill set, or I don't have the time, or I don't have the energy, or I don't have the wherewithal. But what we have to all understand is that you do have the skill. You do have the skills to be a leader. You do have the skills to step into what may be your next, even though you're afraid. Your prerequisites from your past experiences, whether at work, at home, at any other organization that you are leading, you have the skills. But the important thing to realize is that in leadership, sometimes you'll take punches that aren't meant for you. Sometimes you'll have conversations that have nothing to do with you. I love being part of leadership because people will come to me with either a compliment or a complaint. And I embrace them both because every person needs to be heard. And we need to understand that our voice is of influence. What we say to that person, how we respond to their concerns makes a difference. You want them to walk away with their problem solved, or at least there are some clear takeaways as to what's going to happen next. In order to do that, you need to communicate confidently. And sometimes we may not have the answer, but be confident in saying that you don't know, but you will follow up. And please follow up. That is very important. And when we move on and think about our life, it's a maze. We make choices. We may go the wrong way. We may bump into a wall. It may be a roadblock. It may even be a detour. But what we have to realize with everything we do is that it's a learning experience. And every step we take, every move we make, every dime we spend on ourselves is about the return on the investment. And you are your best return on investment. As you're thinking about what success means for you, what is that fuel that makes you want to work harder, work smarter, do more? What gets you up in the morning? What gets you excited? Focus on what that is for you, because time is precious. We don't know what tomorrow will bring. We don't know if tomorrow will even come. We have to maximize every single moment of our lives. And with that, we need to commit to growth. We can't stay stagnant. I've heard the saying many times, there is no growth in the comfort zone. You have to step into discomfort to grow. Now, when people talk to me, they feel intimidated because I've got all these letters after my name, alphabet soup. between my leadership organizations, my educational accolades, everything else I do, I know that I have done a lot in order to gain additional confidence, knowledge, and experience. But what you have to realize along with that is there's always someone watching. No matter how great you think you are, you always have to walk in that spirit of excellence and that you're always serving someone. And it's usually those who never speak. Do you know when you think about on social media, you put something out there, it's a fantastic post or a lesson learned or a story, and it's crickets? That does not mean that no one looked at it. It just means that no one clicked the like or the comment. But it will show up in everyone's feed and they will look at it and not respond. But that does not mean that they're not watching. Because you never know when someone will reach out to you and say, hey, I saw that post, or hey, I know that you're doing Toastmasters. I know that you're doing book anthology. I know that you're doing virtual summits. Well, why didn't you click on like? But people just like to look and lurk. So never stop displaying what you're doing or what you're working on. But also, when we think about what we don't share, what we don't post, the bad news, the things that didn't go well, regardless of whether we share that publicly or privately, remain focused that failure is not final. Failure means you stepped out of on faith and not everything went as expected. But consider if you had done nothing. I know it's scary. It's scary because we always think negatively about everything. We're saying it's not going to go well. Something's going to go wrong. What if this happens, that happens? But we never think about what if it goes great? What if it goes really well? What if someone you didn't know was in the room comes up to you and says, I like what I heard? But if you hadn't taken that step and that leap of faith, you would never know. That's why we have to embrace failure because we learn from failure. We know what to do differently the next time. But if you never tried it, you don't know what worked or didn't work. And people are forgiving. They see your evolution. That's why they're watching. If they remember what you did a year ago and now here you are a year later, elevated, evolved, have more tools, now they'll want to talk to you. So keep moving forward regardless of the results. Now, I started my company AAPPEAL because I wanted to empower other corporate employees to learn from what I had gone through. I did not have mentors or sponsors or people to talk to when I was coming up through corporate. And I wanted to be that resource that I didn't have because it's getting more challenging. You would think it's getting a little easier. I would suspect to say that it's harder now, even with more information and more resources. I started my company AAPPEAL because I wanted to be able to share with others. I wanted others to move faster than I did. I want to be able to grow and groom others from my knowledge. And I love when someone comes back to me and says, I remember when you provided this tool, this training, these words of wisdom, helped me up from when I was down. And now look at me now. That is so empowering to me. It's no longer about me. It is about what I can do for others. And that is what you should be looking to do also. Elevating others. We always talk about the generations. We always want to have our children do better than we did. and they'll want their children to do better than they did. We are continually lifting as we climb, and we need to continue to do that. And I want you to think about, who have you elevated today? Who have you provided some words of wisdom or some words of clarity or a story of something that happened to you that could help them later on? And the last piece is, when we think about what's next and what could ultimately be our final speech or calling or action, what do you want people to remember you for? When they're peeking out, looking and thinking and remembering, what is it and who is it that they will remember? So it is so important to determine your legacy. What will people think about when they hear your name? You want it to be wonderful, good things, how you've touched them, how you've helped them, how you've made them who they are today, help them get to where they are today. Because that will live long after you are gone. So these are the 7 steps to succeed. Start with purpose, understand your value, communicate confidently, commit to growth, embrace failure, elevate others, and determine your legacy. When you're thinking about what area you'll need to focus on, that's where you'll want to think about getting clear and confident. Of those 7 areas, where might I need to focus right now? And I want to share with you questions that you could ask yourself to determine whether or not you're already clear and confident in that area. Or if you can't answer the question clearly, then that would be your area of opportunity. First, start with purpose. What is one goal you want to achieve this year? Just one goal. We're not asking for a list of things. I know I am one. I have stopped doing New Year's resolutions. I just keep a list of ongoing activities I wish to complete, because a goal is ongoing. The New Year's resolution feels like it's a once and done, and once you've missed it, it's over. That's why I don't like New Year's resolutions. We need to have goals that are continuous and that are flexible. For understanding your value, what are your top 3 strengths? And we're so humble, we're like, oh, I don't know. I don't know what they are. Often we need for someone else to tell us what our strengths are based on what they see in you. But I always tell people, be mindful of what they say about you and ensure that you agree. It's also all about branding. People will come to you based on what they think your strengths are. Ensure that that they are your strengths, and that it's not misleading, that people are coming to you for a particular reason and you don't understand why. So know your top 3 strengths. Ask people what they think, your closest friends, confidants, what they think, and that will guide you. And if you think that's not a strength, consider how you will develop it into a strength. For communicating confidently, what is a way you can improve your communication skills? I will plug Toastmasters all day, every day. A wonderful organization. They are global, all over the world. You can find a club. Some are meeting in person, some are meeting online, some are hybrid. It's a great place to be able to practice situations that you may come across. Maybe it's a presentation at work. Maybe it's a conversation you need to have at work, or a conversation at home. or you're working on a longer presentation for work or for some other venue. You get great feedback from your fellow members that allow you to learn and grow faster than any other communication organization. That's my personal opinion on that. Next question is, for commit to growth, what is one area that you want to develop? When we think about, especially when I talk to employees who are being laid off, they are wondering kind of what they did wrong. You didn't do anything wrong. It's just the nature of the organization changed. And not because you weren't the right fit, it's just that situationally they had to make decisions. I no longer feel it's my fault if I am displaced. I take it as a means to start something new or do something different. I love to be able to take that additional time to develop something new, something I had an interest in and never had time because I was working all the time. Sometimes you can find resources and trainings that are free or very nominal. So think about what are some interests that you want to develop in. And it could be something fun. It could be a hobby or some particular skill set. I had taken a class on podcasting. Now I have a podcast, but I wanted to get those tools and understand what does it entail. And I had a course in it. It didn't cost me that much money, but it was well worth it. And I had the time to do it. So what is an area you want to develop in? Of course, if the company will sponsor you to do it, even better. But going back to our best investment is in ourselves. Sometimes we do need to spend our own money to grow. For embrace failure, think about the last failure you had. It could have been a big one, could have been a small one. It's all relative based on your thoughts. But what was the lesson that you learned? And now you know how to do something in the same vein differently the next time. And that could have been you forgot to share information or you missed. I'm in finance. Sometimes I'll miss a calculation or won't spot check every single word and there's a spelling error. It could be a small error. And I'm not saying that, something went horribly wrong and we're calling that a failure. Failure has different sizes. But whatever it is, whatever has happened most recently, what lesson did you learn? We cannot have a failure without a lesson learned. For elevating others, who can you mentor or support? Who have you met recently? Have you been to a networking event, a conference, convention? Maybe you even at work, even in a supermarket. How you meet people, strike up a conversation. There's something about them interests you, or vice versa, and suddenly you have a friend or someone who reaches out for a question or a support. I talked to some people the other day. I was talking about my PhD. I have a note. Someone wants to work on their PhD and wants to pick my brain about my process and how I did it. That's supporting. You never know. We think that no one wants to know about what we've been through or have or learned. People do. There's always someone behind waiting for that hand of help. For determine your legacy, what do you want to be remembered for? And that takes some thought. And that may cause some redirection in what you're doing. We all don't have the means in which to have tons of letters after their names, but there is something special about you. Maximize that and get your voice out there. Share your story, share what you know. People need your help. Those are the 7 questions that will allow you to understand the areas in the S.U.C.C.E.E.D framework that may be your next area of opportunity. When we think about contribution, it really is, how do we move from being this passive participant where we're just showing up, we're just observing, we're holding back. You've seen those people in meetings. You've seen them in the street. You've seen them looking like as if they're drained. And if you even talk to them, like, what do you want? Because they're just passing the time. We call it passive. But what we need to be is purposeful participants. We have to be engaging. We have to be contributing. We want to be creating impact. That goes back to that fueling the fire. When we're not being fueled, we become passive. What might you need to do differently to reignite that, to jump back into where you feel engaged, where you want to create impact, where you know people will value your contributions? So here's my challenge to you. Number 1, choose one of the steps in the framework. Look at that reflection question and think deeply about it. It's not a 5-minute conversation. It could be a 5-minute outline, but possibly hours or days should truly, deeply answer the question, honestly. And I want you to take one action this week. This week. Step out into your discomfort zone today, this week. I am Elizabeth, Dr. E. Carter, PhD. If you scan this QR code, it takes you to my link tree where you can stay on top of what I'm working on next, where I'll be speaking, what projects I'm working on. And I'd love to be able to talk to you about how I can allow you to succeed with this path to elevating your value. I appreciate the time. Have a wonderful morning, day, evening, or night. Thank you so much.